Okay. Okay, good morning all. I'm Judge Evans. We're here for the unlawful detainer docket. Many of you may have received an email from court administration explaining a bit of a bind that we're in, that we don't have a judicial officer to hear today's docket, which doesn't happen very often, but has happened in the past and it's happening today. So we have 16 cases on today, and I recognize these are time-sensitive issues. We have two dates that we're proposing to distribute the current cases on to different unlawful detainer dockets. So there's just two attorneys that are coming in, so I'm just going to wait just for a second until they're in, so I don't have to repeat myself. Still joining. Okay, so some of you may not have heard what I said earlier, that today's unlawful detainer docket is not going to happen because we don't have a judicial officer available to hear it. I'm in a different trial this morning, and unfortunately, we just don't have a body to hear the case. So there's two dates that I'm proposing to set these over, cognizant of the timeliness of these type of issues. So I'm looking at November 3rd and November 17th. The 10th of November is a court holiday, Veterans Day, so we're not going to utilize that day. So my thought is we have 16 cases. My proposal is take 8, the first 8, and send those to the 3rd, and then the last 8, send those to the 17th.
I thought this would be like Family Feud. If I hit the buzzer first, I get all of the dates on the 3rd.
That was last week. We're not doing that.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
So we probably what we just need to do is just talk just individually with each party, each case, to make sure that's okay. So let's talk about Frederick Race and Jonathan Shaw. That's 23-82308. Ms. Tideman represents Mr. Race, and Mr. Brunetti represents Jonathan Shaw and Brittany Shaw. And I see Ms. Tideman is present, and I'll double check to see if Mr. Brunetti is on the line. Oh, there you are. I see him. Can you hear me, Mr. Brunetti?
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Tideman, you can hear me okay?
I can. And for this case, Your Honor, it's not time sensitive, the review that we have. So I think we can put this one on the 17th to allow the other cases to take the 3rd.
Okay. Mr. Brunetti, what are your thoughts?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, well, let's do it. We'll move the Race and Shaw matter to the 17th of November.
Your Honor, I'm waiting to go into a shelter care hearing. So
Okay.
if the court could take
Sure.
my matters.
So we have Maryland Garden Apartment LLC and Susan McKay, 23-86508. There, Ms. Cotto represents Maryland Garden Apartments, and Mr. Brunetti is also here. He's representing Susan McKay. So as far as a choice of a date, 3rd or the 17th look better for your respective parties. Ms. Cotto?
I would ask for the 3rd. This has been pending for weeks, since early September.
Okay, Mr. Brunetti?
That's fine.
Okay, we will move the Maryland Garden and Susan McKay matter to November 3rd at 9 a.m. Not to Friday, and see everybody back. Next matter I have is Sharp Construction and Realty versus Constant Adams and Curtis Rudd, cause 23-298-908. Ms. Cotto is present, and I'll ask if Constance Adams or Curtis Rudd or both are present.
Your Honor, I just put in a NOA for Curtis Rudd. I've speak with Ms. Cotto about this. Ms. Cotto, per our previous conversations, I think we can probably come to an agreement with this. I was able to speak to my client yesterday.
Okay, then we could probably set this over later and let somebody else who's a little more time sensitive.
Okay, Mr. Kiernan, do you feel comfortable with November 17th?
Yeah, I feel comfortable with that. I feel like we will likely resolve this with the phone call.
Okay. Ms.
Okay,
Cotto.
I will give Mr. Karen the call then.
Very good. So Sharp Construction and Constance Adams and Curtis Rudd will move that to November 17th at 9 a.m. I appreciate your
Okay.
flexibility.
And thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to step off because I have my hearing.
Very good. Thank you. Next matter I have is Scott Powell, Scott and Susan Powell, and Justin Kelly and Abby Cooper. Looks like Mr. Kiernan represents Justin Kelly and Abby Cooper, and Mr. Kiernan's here. And let me double check to see if Scott Powell and Susan Powell are present.
Oh, Your Honor, can you hear me?
I believe they retain counsel.
I'm here on behalf of Stephanie Radecki. We just were retained on the Susan Powell matter. My computer is kind of freezing up, so I don't know if you can see me or not.
Yeah, I don't. Tell me your name, please.
Joseph Schinnebeck.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Schinnebeck. All right, just making sure that you heard my earlier comments related to the 2 dates of November 3rd and November 17th to set the matters over. Do you have a preference?
We prefer to set this over to the 3rd next week, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Kiernan?
No objection from me, Your Honor.
Great, thank you both. We'll move the Powell Kelly Abbey matter to November 3rd at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a good day.
Thank you both. Next, I have Eveland Properties versus Desiree Kaufman. There we have Maggie Sturm representing Eveland Properties. Ms. Tideman is here. And I see that Mr. Brunetti is present representing Desiree Kaufman and David Barker. So preference, Ms. Tideman, Mr. Brunetti?
Ms. Sturm indicated that it sounds like there's an agreement for her to be out on the 10th, so we can set it to the 17th just as a review to see if that occurred.
Okay, Mr. Brunetti?
I'm fine with that.
Great. We will move the Eveland Properties and Desiree Kaufman, David Barker matter to November 17th at 9 a.m.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Next, I see Totem LLC and Aaron Miranda, Catherine Vanderhoff, Christopher North, cause number 232-95108. Mr. McCreary is present representing the plaintiff Totem. And Mr. McCreary, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Kiernan, you're here also on that matter representing the defendants, or at least Aaron Miranda.
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
looks
Mr.
like we have an agreement on this one, so I guess if we're pushing agreed matters out to the 17th as less urgent, I think we can strike that one, Mr. Kiernan, if we reach an agreement in the meantime.
Yeah, I think we're pretty close on that one at least. Okay,
Okay.
I guess, yeah, we can talk about that one later, but yes.
So then you both feel comfortable, it sounds like, to moving it to November 17th at 9 a.m.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. It's moved. We'll move it to that date. And so we'll see everybody there. Thanks for your help. I appreciate that. Next is the Montello Apartments and Jeffrey Bills. There looks like Ms. Tideman is representing Montello. Oh, Ms. Sturm.
I am here now, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Sturm is present, and then I'll ask if Jeffrey Dills is present. Jeffrey Dills, are you here? Okay, so Ms. Sturm, our options that we're kind of taking a look at today related to a hearing are November 3rd and November 17th.
I would ask for the 3rd on this one, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll do that. And the record will reflect that Mr. Dills is not present. And again, I'll just call that name again, Jeffrey Dills. Jeffrey Dills, if you're here, please make sure you're unmuted and state your name. And if you're calling in using a phone number, you can press *6, that will unmute, and then press *6 again, that will mute. And okay, so I'm not hearing any response from Jeffrey Dills. So we'll set that to November 3, 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Next is Paradise Cove Resort and RV Park versus Lawrence Nims. Mr. McCreary represents the plaintiff. Mr. Brunetti represents the defense. And Mr. McCreary, do you have a preference?
The 17th works fine for me on that one.
Okay, Mr. Brunetti?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. November 17th, we'll move Paradise Cove and Lawrence Nims to the 17th of November at 9 a.m. All right, thank you. Next, I have Bluff Property LLC and Draco Quills. That's cause 232-96608. Mr. McCreary represents plaintiff. Mr. Brunetti represents the defendant. And I'll ask kind of in the same order what your preference are. Mr. McCreary?
I would like that to be on for the 3rd.
Okay. Mr. Brunetti?
Your Honor, we got a substantial amount of opposition papers to our motion for a repayment plan that my client needs some time to respond to and also get some responses from additional third parties. So we would ask for that one to be on the 17th.
My concern with that, Your Honor, is that the substance of that substantial amount of papers involves some serious intimidation and violence issues derived from Mr. Quiles that make this an urgent one, not one that necessarily should float until the 17th.
I'll respond to that, that there's no allegation in any of the, I mean, the grounds for this, this UDA was non-payment, and my client completely disagrees with the allegations against him, and that's why we need some additional time here. This is a non-payment case. My client wants to pay them back and continue his tenancy, and he believes there's been a lot of harassment, intimidation, and a lot of bad behavior on behalf of the landlord as well. And we wanted an opportunity to respond to that.
The payment plan statute makes compliance with the rental agreement one of the factors to be considered. And that's why the violence is relevant. And that makes it no less urgent that we take care of this on the 3rd.
If they believe he's some sort of a hazard to the property, they can call 911. But Your Honor, yeah, I agree with that. There's a substantial allegations now that he's not in compliance that we need time to respond to.
Okay, all right, thank you. Barring the fact that this, we would have had a judicial officer here today, this case would have been potentially heard today. So I'm going to set it over to November 3rd at 9 a.m. and that we'll hear the case on that date. So November 3rd for the Bluff Property and Wiles matter. So we'll see everybody then. Next, I have Columbia River Properties versus Michael Owen, cause 232-96708. Ms. Winkles represents the plaintiff and Mr. Kiernan represents the defendant, Mr. Michael Owen. Ms. Winkles?
Yeah, I have no problem going over till November 17th. We'll probably settle in any event.
Yeah, it sounds like we're pretty close to a settlement on this one, Your Honor.
Great. We'll move the Columbia River Properties and Michael Owen matter to the 17th of November at 9 a.m. Thank you both.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next, I have Reliant Property Management versus Russell Shepard. Mr. Shepard is represented by Mr. Is it Rife?
Yeah, Mr. Riffey, and I represent the plaintiff, Reliant Property Management.
Thank you, Mr. Riffey. I appreciate that. And then I'll ask if Mr. Tackett Nelson or Bradley Krause is on the line, or
I'm there on their behalf, Your Honor.
Okay, so
I work for the same firm.
Okay,
Here.
so are you representing the plaintiff?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, and then I have, okay. And then those two other individuals I mentioned, Mr. Tackett and Mr. Krause, those are colleagues of yours?
That is correct.
Okay, because they're listed at least on my system as representing the defense. That's why I got a little confused, but I appreciate you clarifying that. Okay.
Understandably.
Yeah, let me ask if Russell Shepard is on the line. Russell Shepard, if you're here, make sure you're unmuted and please state your name, Russell Shepard. Okay, there's no response. So Mr. Is it right? Riffey?
Griffey, like Ken Griffey without the G.
Probably the first time you've ever said that. Yeah. Riffey, thank you. That makes it easy. What is your preference, November 3rd or 17?
November 3rd, Your Honor. This case is premised on a 3-day notice to quit for unlawful activity. Tenant was arrested for tenant-on-tenant assault. I believe this makes this matter fairly urgent.
Okay, we'll set it over 1 week, November 3rd at 9 a.m. I'll also note that Mr. Shepard is not present and did not respond to the court calling his name. And I don't see his name reflected in the Zoom boxes. All right, so November 3rd, 9 a.m. Thanks. Pardon? Which is that one? Thank you. Next, I have Chini Investment and Alicia Proper and Kimberly Proper, 232-99008. Mr. McCurry represents the plaintiff. Mr. McCurry is present, and I'll ask if Alicia Proper or Kimberly Proper, if you're on the line, please state your name. Hearing no response and not seeing them noted on the Zoom box. Mr. McCurry, your preference?
We can strike that matter, Your Honor.
Stricken. Okay, thanks. Next, I have Bluff Property versus Katie Lauer, 232-99608. Mr. McCurry represents the plaintiff. Mr. Kiernan represents the defense. Preference, Mr. McCurry.
The 17th should be fine. I believe we have this one good to go for an agreement.
Yeah, I think my client's on her way out.
Okay, November 17th. We'll set it to that date at 9 a.m. New Spring Property Management and Shante Bodine, 23299708. Mr. McCurry represents plaintiff. Mr. Kiernan represents defense. Mr. McCurry.
I would like this one on for the 3rd.
Okay, Mr. Kiernan.
I think that's probably fine with me. I'm hopeful we can come to a resolution on that in the time period. I think my client's just getting some money together.
Okay, November 3rd at 9 a.m. We'll move it to that date. Thank you. Quantum Residential and Martin Radillo and Maya Richards and Maria Radillo, 2321000408. And I show that Mr. David Galazine is on the line representing plaintiff.
It's Galazin, Your Honor. Yes, I represent Quantum Residential in this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Galazin. Appreciate that. Martin Radillo, Maya Richards, Maria Radillo, are you on the line?
Yeah, we are. Yes.
Okay, great. Mr. Galazin, do you have a preference of November 3rd and November 17?
The preference would be if we're setting this over for November 3rd. The notice to pay or vacate request amounts due back from June, so we're multiple thousands of dollars over at this point.
Okay. And then Mr. Radillo, Ms. Radillo, and Ms. Richards, do you have a preference of November 3rd and November 17th?
November 17th.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to set this matter over 1 week, November 3rd at 9 a.m. The case would have been heard today, but for the lack of judicial officers. So we'll set over 1 week, November 3rd at 9 a.m. So we'll see everybody on that date and time. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, I have Quantum Residential versus Daniel Parsons, 2321000508. Mr. Galazin is present, representing plaintiff. Daniel Parsons, are you here today? Daniel Parsons?
I'm here in appearance from Mr. Parsons.
Okay, Mr. South is present in the courtroom.
And actually, Your Honor, this matter can be stricken just within the past couple of days. I received notice that Mr. Parsons is paid in full, so we can strike this matter.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay, all right. We will strike the matter and thank you for both being here. And that concludes the unlawful detainer docket for today. Thanks, everybody.